you enlighten our minds, give wisdom to our judgments. That you bring out of our hearts all the best hopes and desires you have put there, helping us serve as best we can all your people.
Before we really get into the transportation aspect of this, where's Elijah? Is he here? Elijah, you here? There he is. All right, I want to talk about a couple provisions that we got done in what you know is the One Big Beautiful Bill, because we just had lunch at the family restaurant, and Kelly, your mother, was our server, and she's awesome. She works incredibly hard. So here's what's great. Kelly's not going to have to pay tax on the first $12,500 of her tips. And Elijah's not going to have to pay tax on the first $12,500 of his overtime.
I like that. I'll take that.
Okay. So, as a grandfather, I'm going to say one more thing before we do this. You listen to your mom. You hear me? Watching you. Well, I want to thank Secretary Duffy for coming out today. You know, he's a Wisconsin boy. He's from up north. Don't fault him on that. But
It starts off throwing heat right off the beginning.
that's right, man. I don't know if you guys know this, but two of my uncles were over-the-road truckers. One of them wasn't such a good one. He wound up hitting a bridge, and that ended his career, obviously. And then the other one did it until his retirement. And anybody that knows the intermodal transportation system understands that if trucking stops, the United States of America stops. You get nothing. So for us to not recognize our truckers and our mechanics, and we just got done with the highway guys, if we don't recognize the people that are making America work, then we're fools. And so I want you to know you have my deepest respect for being in this industry and making sure that America can work on schedule. And I know you didn't want to talk to the fat bald guy. You want to hear from Secretary Duffy. I'm the fat bald guy. Right there. It's not you.
Am I up?
You're up. You want to say hi, and we'll go around and introduce folks after that?
Should we go around first and introduce everybody, and then we'll kick her off? Yeah, who wants to start?
Okay. I was talking to his dad. I go, you know, I've never driven a tractor before. And he's like, do you want to? I'm like, absolutely. So I took that thing spinning around the parking lot. Very fun. Yeah, exactly. Several times, right? Yeah, just so you know, your congressman is 14 years old. So, again, thanks. Say thanks to Dad for that. Yep.
Started truck. We're at 38 trucks, we help for 75 different farms right now in Wisconsin, from Turtle Lake down to Cuba City. I'm the president of the Wisconsin Milk Haulers, 3 committees for international milk haulers, and I'm on the Dairy Rules Advisory Committee for the Department of Ag.
Oh, very.
I'm Derek Bars. I'm the administrator for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. I had the privilege of being able to work with Secretary Duffy, and it's also an honor for me to be here with you, the backbone of America that runs freight. 70% of what we touch is run through trucking, and I had the utmost respect for the American truck driver and what you all do. My background is in law enforcement. I retired from the Florida Highway Patrol, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is cold up here. It's freezing. Trust me, it's freezing. It's 75 degrees back home. So, but anyway, it's an honor for me to be here, and I look forward to working with you all as we move forward into this administration and how we can make things better. Under Secretary Duffy, he is just laser focused to make sure that we keep this industry at the forefront of everything that we do. So thank you all very much. And Sherry was in D.C. yesterday spending time with us, so she gets around. So.
Well, you should stick around for a couple more days, and you'll see a real Wisconsin winter. So, welcome. I'm State Senator Patrick Teston, represent the 24th Senate District, which covers parts of Portage, Adams, Juneau, Ola Jackson County, and western and northern half of Monroe County. Serve as the chairman of the Ag and Revenue Committee, co-chair of the Joint Finance Committee, and serve as the Senate President Pro Tem.
Thank you. I'm State Representative Nancy Vandermeer. I represent the 70th District. I am chair of our Assembly Committee on Transportation, and I also serve on the Ag Committee in our Assembly. I am the only one to have that opportunity out of 99 Assembly members to serve on both of those vital committees. So it is indeed a pleasure, an honor to be here with friends and neighbors and special guests here today. The 70th District covers a large part of Monroe County towards Tomah, also part of Juneau County, and all of Jackson County. So once again, welcome to those of you who are new to our area, and we'll look forward to our conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Travis Tranel. I'm a dairy farmer from Cuba City. Tim actually picks up our milk, and during COVID, I know we don't want to go back to those times, but I always told everybody on the phone, as long as the milk truck shows up, everything will be all right. And through their hard work and dedication, these guys did not miss a single day during COVID, which was absolutely awesome. In addition to being a dairy farmer, I also represent the 49th Assembly District in the state of Wisconsin and also chair Ag in the Assembly. Obviously a huge industry when it comes to our state, and obviously very reliant on transportation and trucking. I just want to give my appreciation to Congressman Van Orden for making sure that the 3rd is well represented, and to Secretary Duffy for making sure that you acknowledge the important and vital role that Wisconsin plays in our nation's food security and safety.
Thank you. My name is Dan Johnson. I'm the president of the Wisconsin Motor Carriers Association, and it is an absolute privilege to be here. Chief Bars, Secretary Duffy, thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of the Wisconsin trucking industry. The Wisconsin trucking industry is taking notice. There is a change that has been happening. I know it's probably like turning a cruise ship with an oar, but we're here to help you, okay? Congressman Van Orden, thank you for your kind words. In fact, tomorrow in Wisconsin Dells, we will be honoring hundreds of the safest drivers in Wisconsin. These are men and women who have logged literally millions of miles with zero accidents at all, and they've been doing it for decades. So we're very proud of our drivers, and thank you for your kind words to them, because they are the ones who keep our economy moving. So we appreciate that. Again, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Tim. Congressman, Secretary, appreciate that you're here today.
I'm with Star Blends. We've been in the feed manufacturing business for 40 years. We have locations in Sparta and Chippewa Falls. If it wasn't for us feeding the cows, you guys wouldn't have anything to do, so you're welcome. No, it is important. We also have a 1,500 cow dairy farm, so it's important, the milk truck shows up and it pulls it away every 23 hours at a couple locations, so it's really important. So I feel honored to be here today, and like I said, we feel very much a part of it because we're making it happen on our end too, so thanks.
Wonderful. Well, listen, I want to thank you all for being here, and all of Congressman Van Orden's work and support. You need support in Congress to do some of the things that we want to make happen, and he's been a great advocate and supporter of even the reforms we're thinking about, which I'd like to talk about in a second. I feel like I'm in a Derek sandwich here, the two Dereks, and I get to sit between them. But I first want to point out Administrator Barr's, Senate confirmed, and he has done an amazing job as the administrator of FMCSA, and it's not been easy, and he doesn't have a big team, and because problems keep popping up, and we keep throwing stuff at him, and at one point he's like, could I get some more lawyers in here? I could use some help, because you're telling me to move fast, but I need more. So again, we're putting assets and resources into his team so he can move more quickly. Just as a point of reference, I would drive our lumberjack trucks around the country, so I had my CDL until a little over a year ago. When I moved from Wisconsin, I had to get a New Jersey driver's license. I wasn't going to. I waited as long as I could, but before confirmation, I thought I should probably have a license of where I've been living, so I got a New Jersey driver's license, and it was so bad I didn't want to go through the process of trying to keep the CDL in New Jersey. So, but a long-time CDL holder. Listen, I think what's happened is we've let an industry just with whether it's rotting, no one paid attention. There was fraud, there's abuse, there's bad policy, and year over year and decade after decade, things just continued to get worse, and no one seemed, in my opinion, no one was seeming to pay attention. And you probably saw when I first got into the DOT, we had the DCA air crash. There's a lot of aviation stuff we had to deal with, and then we had to shut down. But as we've seen, the number of Americans who've died on the roads because of truckers, it immediately started to flag for us. We have bigger problems that we're not recognizing. And in partnership with Derek, we have been digging in, and there's still a lot of work to do. But we have a longstanding rule that you have to speak English if you're going to have a commercial driver's license. And the Obama administration had put just a slap on the wrist for that offense. We brought a penalty back for not being able to, not being English proficient in the cab. The problem I have is I wish I had law enforcement as a little sliver of the FBI would be great. Not the FBI, but I had a team for Derek. But I rely on my state partners to actually help enforce our rules and our laws. And some states are great, some are not. Like California, not so great, or New York or Minnesota, they're not good partners. And so it makes it challenging for us to enforce our rules unless I have law enforcement in the states where they don't seem to care a whole lot, getting them to comply. And we can take money from them, and we have taken money from California, and they've started to become more compliant. But from that to the chameleon carriers that I'm sure Derek will talk about. But so Pete Buttigieg, in the last administration, he allowed CDL schools to self-certify that they were compliant with federal law. And is it the Leering Center?
Yes, it is the Leering Center.
The Leering Center.
Yes.
Very much like the Leering Center. You had schools that had no curriculum, they had no trucks, and they were signing off that we had drivers that had the knowledge and the skills because they've gone through the school to go get their driver's license. And they have no skill, right? In Wisconsin, we do it pretty well. Our third-party testers do a great job because the state does oversight on our third-party testers. But many states don't do any oversight on the third-party testers, which is why we're getting drivers on the roads that that are incompetent. And as anyone who's driven a big rig, it's an 80,000-pound missile potentially. You got to be well qualified. You got to have skills. You got to be mature. You should speak the language. And we're seeing that's not actually the case. One of the problems that we have, I think, is there's a broader debate about immigration that's happening right now, and that we should have that debate. I have an opinion. Derek has an opinion. But this is not a debate about what we should have done under Joe Biden's 4 years and letting 15 million people in, or what. This is just about safety. How do we make sure American roads are safe? But the electronic logbook issue, you have people that'll drive 18 hours. Like, no one can compete with that. And so we're trying the best we can to methodically work through the dysfunction in the system and make it work better. I don't know if here with you guys, but in different parts of the country, you have multiple generations small trucking firms that are going out of business. They can't make a living anymore because they're competing with someone who is in the country illegally, and they're not complying with the rules. The insurance that they'll get might be $350,000 when probably they should have $2 million or $4 million. So they're doing things on the cheap, and our good drivers and good companies can't compete. And so we are leaning in hard to do everything we can to, as fast as we can, fix trucking in America. And I'll just tell you, aviation is complicated. This is almost as complicated as aviation. It's because and Derek has to sit and explain. He's like, well, this is happening because of this. I'm like, well, why is that happening? And he's like, look, we go round and round together, and then how do we fix it? Like, what's the policy to fix it? And it takes a lot of time to think through that, and we'd love to have your feedback today. One last point I'll make, Derek, is I think we've done probably more than anyone has in recent memory trying to make this industry work and work better with good people, good companies, responsible people. But truckers must be on Twitter a lot because I get so much I can do a ton of good things. I get like tweets from truckers that are like, why haven't you done this and done that? And I pay attention to their tweets, and we try to take that feedback and modify how we're prioritizing what we're doing. But also the information and flow back from all of you to prioritize where do we get the biggest impact? And that's where we have to focus first. So it's a pleasure to be with you all. Great to see so many people come out. It does make America work. This feeds America, moves America's products. We don't have trucking. We don't have truckers. You don't have an economy. It is critical to how this country functions. And so thank you to everyone, whether you own a company or you're driving in a company or you're dispatching for whatever you're doing, thank you for that because it's critically important. And we are going to work tirelessly to make sure we have the best rules in place to make sure people are safe, and we have good, honorable drivers and business owners in place. I think we've actually started to see spot rates come up because some of the bad drivers are getting kicked out, which is a good thing. I mean, you guys got to be able to make a living. So, thank you for having me. Can I turn it over to Administrator Bars?
Sure.
Yeah, Derek. Okay. Here, I'll just take it up. We'll just pass.
He's got it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. It's an honor and a privilege for me to just be sitting in this room and talk about the issues, and the Secretary is at 100% right. I've been in this business on the enforcement side for a long period of time, and it does feel like that it's like, who's paying attention, who's minding the store, as my daddy would always say. But we have a lot of things that we have going on. I know you've been paying a lot of attention. I see a lot of the things that you have been talking about, CDL issues. We got chameleon carriers. And I just wanted to go through some of those things, if we could, real quick, and just talk about the direction that we're going in and the rulemaking processes that we're doing to address some of these issues, of course, with the English language written only for CDL testing. It doesn't make sense where you can go and take the written test in any language that you want to, but then you can do the skills test. It has to be in English. It should all be done in English, and that's the direction that we're going from an agency, from a rulemaking standpoint. And codifying the English language proficiency as an out of service, I know the representative is actually doing that through Congress as well, but from our side. And then entry-level driver training. That has been one area that is just where the fraud is just rampant. We've moved out to over 7,000 folks that have not followed the rules. And I said in my first press conference with him that you need to be out of business. If you're not going to do it right, leave the business, and if not, we're going to come for you. And that's what we did. We sent investigators in across the country to verify, what are you doing? Do you have a truck? Do you have a driving pad? Do you actually have curriculum and those things? And we found out where we were going to show up to talk to these folks, and they said, just never mind, we're just not going to do this anymore, take us off the rolls. I said, that's fine, but we're still going to investigate you. So it doesn't mean you're just going to just come off and not pay a penalty or pay a price to that. So we're working towards that. There's got to be a reform. The self-certification process is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life, that you can just say, hey, I'm going to have a Derek Bars trucking or driver training school, and then there'd be no oversight for that. So our team is working diligently. We're constantly just going in different schools to verify. And to be honest with you, I'd love for us just to kind of just wipe the whole thing off the board and start all over again. But right now, we have to work through the reform through our regulatory process. And then new entrant training and testing. If you're going to be a new entrant or you're going to be a new carrier that comes into this business, you should show some sort of proficiency. There is a process that has never been implemented back under the Obama administration that you should have had a proficiency test before you got your DOT number. So we will begin working, or we are working on that particular rule as well. Electronic logging devices, the fraud that is taking place of extending hours of service, allowing drivers to continue to drive, which then cuts into your bottom line. So we have been doing a vetting process since I got in this position. We have not let a new electronic logging device into the market since for the last 6 months. We've had over 435 that have asked to be a part of that, be an electronic logging device operator, and we've turned all of them down at this point. And we will continue to remove those. We removed 14 last week from the system. And then just a couple of other things. It's just the unified registration system. We are working to enhance our registration system, which is an old system that's over 40 some odd years old at this point. Our MODIS system is what we're going to call it. It actually doesn't mean anything, whatever. I don't know what MODIS stands for, but I think we're going to kick off and say POTUS is going to kick off MODIS at some point. I think I kind of like that idea a little bit. But we'll see. I don't know where the comms folks are, but take note of that. But I do want to talk to one last thing, and I'll answer any questions anybody has when we get to that point. But the chameleon carriers. We all know that is just a web of issues that occur when you have one company and then you have multiple hundreds at times, depending on their operation, of these other shell companies is what I call it, that are up under this one so-called good one. So, they just swap vehicles back and forth, drivers back and forth, and so forth. And they don't mind shutting them down, replacing the markings on the side of the trucks. Everybody has seen it. So we're working with our team to address this through a strong investigative approach. And then we have another set that we're doing to notify folks. I'll just give you an example. Your DOT number, you have a principal place of business right here. It has an address. We have hundreds that may be at one location on the interstate. I'm not sure how you run an operation or run a trucking company, 157 of them at this one location. So we're working through that process, and they also have a principal place of business at a United States Postal Service office or a P.O. box. And so we've got thousands of those that we're working to remove out of the system now through our team. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're going to make a big splash in this, and we will continue to work hard to remove this. And I'll touch on the one major crash recently that we're working on. We've moved 7 carriers out of this web, but that's just the beginning of what this web looks like. There's 168 carriers that are tied to one individual carrier. So, of course, these investigations take time, but we will continue to work hard to strengthen this industry with the resources that we have. And I'd love to start carrying my gun again, to be honest with you, Mr. Secretary. But anyways, we look forward to working with you and how we can strengthen this industry. And I always say FMCSA is open for business, and whatever we can do to make things better and learn from you and what's going on in your state. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Derek. So talking about the regulatory environment and the safety environment and all of the reforms that you guys are doing really at light speed. As fast as the government can move. I mean, you guys have no idea how slow it is in DC, so I appreciate this tremendously. But one of the biggest issues that I've run into, speaking to our folks, is, you know, who's going to operate the vehicle. So you guys, how short are you right now? How many more drivers could you use right now?
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, I could use another 400 or 500 drivers.
Okay.
Tomorrow, I could load them all.
So 500 drivers. Where are those going to come from? There's two pools that we're working on, and it dovetails with the issue of not being able to drive across state lines until you're 21. Well, by the time you're 21, more likely than not, you've already entered into a different industry. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we can get people into the trucking industry, because it's a good damn job at a younger age, and they can grow into it. And then the other population that we have found that we're working with through my committee on the VA is veterans. So when you transition out of the military, we want you to be able to go right into the trucking industry, either as a mechanic or an operator. And so we're trying from the congressional side to make sure that, and the reason we want veterans to do this is because you know where to be, you know, what uniform to be in, when to be there, and you're not on drugs. So how many people would love to have that employee every single day, right? You would. But how many CDL holders do we have out here? Sean just whispered, I used to be one. So I think if you guys at the round table or in the audience, if you have some questions that I can answer, or Sean can answer, or Derek can answer, or someone else at the table can answer, I'd like to do that now for a few minutes. We've got time, right? Yeah, we've got time. So if anybody has any questions regarding safety, regulations, employment, any of that stuff, please ask. Tim?
Thank you very much. Maybe a hard question to ask or not. The federal gas and fuel tax monies, this is one of the points I had wrote up, and federal excise tax monies and heavy vehicle use tax monies, do they all go for road and bridge infrastructure? Am I supposed, is that okay to ask this question? This is what we're...
It's in your house, that's right. So the answer to that is no. So 20% of those taxes go to transit. And the trust fund doesn't have enough money. We pull from the general fund to fund transportation in this country. So it would end up being an accounting process. But if you don't have enough money in the highway trust fund, why are we taking 20% out of it and giving it to transit? Now, by the way, I have the whole country. I believe in transit. Our cities do not work unless you have transit systems that work. Now, they're violent, they're dirty, they're homeless shelters. Like, that's not what we want. But we are going to propose that we don't divert any money out of transit to any money out of the highway trust fund to transit. We should fund transit out of the general fund completely. So it's not going to necessarily give us more money, but there's always a debate. If we don't have enough money in the highway trust fund, how do we get more money? Like, well, one is you could charge those who have an EV that don't pay a gas tax. They should pay an annual fee, I think, and those who have a hybrid could pay a lower fee, but it could raise, $40 billion over the course of 5 years. That's a conversation that I don't get to have. That's for Derek and the Congress to consider. Otherwise, people talk about, should we have more tolling? Should we raise the gas tax? Like, those are all conversations that people will throw on the table. There's not a lot of revenue streams, but those are things that Congress considers. One thing that we are going to try to do is find different ways to use public-private partnerships. There is a lot of infrastructure money on the sidelines that would like to come in, and I don't think we've adequately thought through how we could use those private dollars to do good projects. And so we're going to start thinking through that, and we have good people who are coming in to advise us. So that was a really long, I don't know if I answered your question.
And I appreciate your answer. I really do. I just know in the local end of things here, like the county and township roads, Wisconsin's getting a little help. We greatly appreciate that. It's an awesome start. Thanks to our Wisconsin, Travis, thank you, and Nancy. But what I really wanted to say is, it's a start. We've seen a lot of bad roads out there in hauling milk. The milk's always moving on us, and it's tricky. We're doing good. If there was any more help available, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
We've taken, I think, a different approach, and we're talking over at the county building that what happens historically is Washington, D.C. will send money to Madison, and then Madison will send money to Madison and Milwaukee. And they forget about, am I right? Right. Okay. Right. Right. Although Monroe County also starts with an M, it doesn't count for these folks. So we need, you guys look at the roads, you know what I mean? What did Tony Evers run on? Fix the damn roads. How'd that work out, buddy? It didn't. So what we're trying to do is when we connect directly to the municipalities and find out what they need, we just got $8.4 million for a county road. Cedric's right back there, for here in Monroe County. And, you know, that's a big investment. And so when I go to D.C., we solicit input from all the municipalities, and you tell me what you want us to spend federal dollars on. That's how the government's supposed to work. We're not supposed to tell you what to do. And so we're taking that approach now, and Sean is correct. You know, there's a lot of things that we have to look at through the Ways and Means Committee about different tax systems and structures. But Sam Graves, he's the chairman of Transportation Infrastructure. He's a pilot. Don't hold that against him. But, you know, he works really, really diligently to make sure that we take care of rural America. I mean, I live here on purpose. And yeah, absolutely.
I look at how money is being spent, and I mentioned this at our press conference earlier, but there's some projects where 40% of the dollars that we give to a project, 40% go to consultants to comply with the permitting process. So that's 60% goes to turn in dirt, and 40% will go to permitting. Listen, I'm okay to go through a permitting process, but that is obscene, that this is the amount of money. And we wonder why. I mean, remember that I was in Congress. I ran for Congress when they did the stimulus bill, which at the time it was like $850 billion, which I thought was outrageous. Now it's kind of chump change in this environment. But a lot of money's been spent on infrastructure, and I think it's fair to look around and go, well, where in the hell did the money go? Like, what happened with the money? Like, what have you delivered for me? And a lot of it's going to not building roads and bridges. It's going to the consulting class because of all the rules we have in place. And I think we should look at the environment. That's a good thing. But it shouldn't take 10 years to build a project. And if we could get the Congress, and it's got to be bipartisan, I think Democrats are going to think about this, but we should think about restructuring how we permit. That's going to be critical. But also, I'm sorry, if your community wants to build a bike trail, like I love bike trails, they're wonderful. But if we don't have great roads and bridges, why in the hell are we building a bike trail? Like I know they're wonderful, but I don't. And even, like, listen, curbs and sidewalks are, like, we need those. But maybe that has to be your community, has to say, these are the curbs and the sidewalks that we have to build, and you have to figure out how you spend your money. But there's not a federal nexus there. We got to build the big infrastructure that moves people and products around the country. And finally, when I came in, there was a lot of requirements on this. The last administration put a whole bunch of green requirements on projects, which only drove up the cost. A lot of DEI requirements that only drove up the cost. And so I'll do what the Congress tells me, but I took out what Pete Buttigieg had put in there and have taken those requirements away, which means we get more money to turn dirt, to build roads and bridges and the infrastructure that we're talking about today. We got to stop wasting money. We have to do things as efficiently and as fast as possible. And it's our job because we deliver for the American people. You deliver for your communities. That's what it's about. And I think you'd be outraged if you saw how money was misspent and wasted on stupid stuff that it wasn't intended for.
More questions? Don't be shy. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This kind of dovetails on it. I read recently, I believe in the Wall Street Journal, where this administration is looking into the fraud and abuses in the preferential bidding processes for infrastructure projects, where certain types of people or individuals can bid higher because of who they are To me, that's just a waste of money. That money could be better used in the project. There was a time maybe when that process was needed, but that's a long time ago.
Sure. Hey, let me tell you what, during the Biden administration, they did all these different loans for small businesses, and pretty much everybody in this room was at the bottom of that list. So by the time they got around to Caucasian males, there was no more money left. And that's just a fact, and that's wrong. John Roberts on the Supreme Court, he said the only way to stop discriminating against people is to stop discriminating against people. And so that's a fact. So it is an immutable characteristic. You know, I represent essentially Finland. And that's who we are in the third. And that it doesn't, or Sweden, it depends on what you want. I'm actually Irish, don't tell anybody. I just said that. That was my inside voice. So what we're trying to do is level this playing field. Just because, you know, you have a certain set of ancestors doesn't mean that you should get preferential funding from the federal government. We just have to stop that stuff. So I voted against some things that if you look at the totality of what's in there, they could be construed as good, but when they they intentionally write discriminatory practices into these, I don't vote for it. And this was held up by the Supreme Court. This is clearly acknowledged. This is not my opinion, that the Biden administration did that. And that doesn't fly on my watch. If you're black or white or Chinese, if you're a man or a woman, I don't care. You're an American. And we got to start looking at each other as Americans. You're Democrat, Republican, I don't care. And when we start doing that from the federal government side, you know, that's broadcast across our culture. And I think it's time now. It's 2026 for Pete's sakes.
Well, I appreciate the work the Congress does to think about this, but there is a requirement that we contract with disadvantaged businesses. That's a requirement from Congress. The last administration viewed disadvantaged business as a racial issue, sometimes a sex issue. There could be a whole bunch of things that make you disadvantaged, and it could include race or sex, but that can't be the exclusive analysis that you go through. And so any of the entities that get grant money from us that have these discriminatory actions in how they are implementing the money that we've given them, we've pulled money back, required them to redo how they contract. And again, Congress has that requirement, but you just can't base it on race and sex. And so I think this is just part of being good government. Everyone should have a chance to bid on a deal, right? Everyone, and I want the most qualified, the most competent, and the best price. Like that's what we need to look for. Anybody else?
Anybody out here?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for everything you've done. What you're doing is working, and the spot rates are up, contractor rates are up, and this has all happened in the last month, I want to say. A lot of damage has been done to a lot of good carriers, and it's not good. We all know about the illegal drivers and all that, but can you comment on the Delilah law, where the government is with that? Delilah law?
Delilah, so the president mentioned the Delilah law in the State of the Union speech. So Delilah was hit by an illegal driver. She didn't pass away, but she was severely injured, and she's the most wonderful little girl. And has a great family, a great dad who's been advocating for her. And so we weren't sure of the confines of where the president was at, so we've worked with the White House and have given them ideas on what we're going to propose to the Congress. Again, we just have to have zero tolerance. If you can't speak the language, or even some states are giving driver's licenses to people who, so you can, just to explain this, if you come into the country under Joe Biden and you had a work authorization, you could go and get a commercial driver's license. And that was one scenario, but another scenario is if you came into the country and you didn't have a work authorization, we had states that are still giving illegals driver's licenses. And again, they're competing with all of you. They're not here lawfully, and more than likely they didn't go through the safety training that you should have to drive that rig. So That's going to be the context of what we do with Delilah's Law. And I don't, Derek, do you want to mention anything else on that, or?
Just the process, we're getting a lot of feedback right now from Congress and then our office back and forth. So it is moving forward very quickly, and we'll have more to report out in the next, I would probably say in the next week or so. But between the White House, between DOT, and then back in Congress from the T&I committee, we've got a lot of information that being pushed back and forth. And the Secretary is 100% right. I mean, we've had some of these conversations with the folks in the room here today. But one thing I do want to highlight is that your state, when we came in and did an audit in this state, your folks are doing it the right way. And you've been a model state for how you should be issuing out driver's licenses, and you all should be very, very proud of the work that this state has been doing. I see a lot of state representatives over here, so what you all are doing is to be modeled across the country. So I commend you all for that. And then just moving forward, again, I've seen it on roadside where you have someone, you're doing a roadside inspection on one of these trucks here, and I want to get up under, I want to check the brakes. The driver can't understand anything I'm saying. I'll blow my whistle. He doesn't even understand what blowing the whistle means. So from a safety standpoint, if I'm going to do a roadside inspection, they need to be able to speak English, or I'm not going to do the inspection on the truck. Well, right now I'll put you out of service, but back in those days, they didn't even enforce it. And so we are enforcing it, and this state is taking over 160 folks out of service from roadside inspections from the English language proficiency. So your folks are doing a good job. Sorry.
Wait, no, wait, Johnny. Johnny, you've got one more here.
Do we have one
Sure.
in the audience?
You had a question?
Here.
So I'd like to thank Tam. I'm across the river, so I'm on the other side. But anyhow, we're a food grade carrier. We're all over the United States. What scares the hell out of me is the tort reform, or how do we control all the billboards and the lawyers and everybody that's funding all these things, these equity firms and stuff like that. We can't buy enough insurance, on our side. So how do we work on that, or how do we get something passed, in all the states?
Well, sir, first of all, I'd like to invite you to move a little east to a place to a place I call America. Yeah. 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 Wow. Oof. You talk about that for a while. I'm sorry. I was born in Minnesota, but only God and your mom get to decide where you're born, so I don't take credit for that. Listen, there's an issue with the Trial Lawyers Association, and it's clearly acknowledged for everything from this type of insurance to malpractice insurance, and they're simply out of control, and they're taking advantage of a system, and it's inappropriate. We've been trying for a long time to get some type of reform with these guys, but for Pete's sakes, you should be probably $2.5 million worth of insurance, and as Sean said earlier, these guys are floating $250,000, $750,000, and for us to try to legislate that is one thing, but then we have to have the enforcement side also. But I'll tell you right now, I'm very, very frustrated. There's a lot of things in industries that are much more expensive than they should be because of the Trial Lawyers Association and them taking advantage of a niche part of the law where they should not be doing that. And I know Sean's got a good perspective on this also.
So again, it's driving up the cost, right? Driving people out of business. It's become unaffordable, and so this is a state-by-state issue, but also a federal issue, and it has to be legislated. And the problem is the trial lawyers give a lot of money to one side of the political aisle, and they will not move on it. And no one disagrees that if someone is in a bad crash and there's someone at fault, that you should be able to sue them and you should be compensated for that. But that's not what's happening. To Derek's point, this has become very fraudulent. When we talk about the affordability issue, I mean, this portion of the cost that no one sees is substantial. And we could reduce prices remarkably if we could navigate the fraud and abuse of the tort system. And so you got to advocate with your legislators, which you don't really have to because they're all on board, but with others, federal and state. Okay, there you go. Oh, that's a good one.
Hey, Well, I want to thank you all for coming out again. Sean, I want to thank you very much for coming back to your state. You're always welcome here, always. I really want you to know that I mean what I say, and the longer you get to know me, the more that you'll understand that. And that what I tell you when I'm working incredibly hard in Washington, D.C. to make sure that the trucking industry can not just survive but thrive and grow, I mean what I say. And so for the first time in a long time, you've got some very strong advocates in Washington, D.C. from the congressional side. And for the first time, I tell you, this is possibly the greatest upgrade in a cabinet member in the history of our country.
Bar was low.
Right?
Thank you.
We went from racist roads and bridges to a lumberjack that had a CDL for 30 years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean for closing comments. Again, the last thing I'd say is I just wish that God would bless you and your families. And thank you so much for keeping America working.
I appreciate that. Listen, I couldn't ask for a better partner in D.C. than Derek Van Orden, and not just a brass knuckle brawler, but one of the nicest guys you'll meet in Washington. Which that's a unique characteristic. It's kind of maybe we're fighters in Wisconsin, but we're also really nice people, and he takes that to Washington. So I'm grateful for that. My ask for all of you. So Derek is like fantastic. I couldn't have had a better administrator for motor carriers. He's crushing it for us, and a lot of great ideas come from DOT. I mean, frankly, if you're going to talk about a deep state, maybe that exists. It probably does exist in other places. At DOT, we actually do have people that they want to build stuff. They want to make it safer. Like their hearts are in a good place. And so we have teams that are thinking of the best ideas on how to navigate the problems that we see. And my ask to all of you is, if you see problems that we're not focused on, please share them. Or if you think that we could do things differently, you should share that with us, because I don't think the best ideas, I think Derek agrees with this, the best ideas don't come from Washington or Madison. It comes from all of you. And if you don't share it, and you just kick your tires and bitch and moan, which I don't think you guys will do that, but if that's the answer, like, you're not using willing partners that say, well, what are you hearing? What's the problem? How can we do it differently? How can we be more successful? Like, that's the partnership that we need. We got a great team, but it could be even better if I've got, hundreds or thousands of other partners out there who are willing to communicate with us, so we can be. I mean, we have 3 years left, not a lot of time, and there's a lot of reform that we could do to make this industry better than what it's been over the last 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. And when we do that, it's only going to help the good families, the good haulers, have more business, because we're going to get rid of the bad actors. And so please help us. That's the ask. Please help us with what you guys see on the road. So I'd like to get ahead of things before they actually become a problem or someone loses their life. If you can share that, you're seeing things, tell us. And we'll start to work together, because you got a mission-driven team that's working their hearts out to try to make this actually function way better than it's ever. I'll channel Donald Trump. Yeah. Better than it's ever been before. It's going to be beautiful. It'll be the best rules and regulations that you've ever seen.
Beautiful highway.
It's going to be amazing. But I need your help. And by the way, just as a quick note, the president, we are so blessed. Like, he loves transportation. Like, he's talking to me about what product we should use in roads, in bridges, what colors they should be, what tiles we should. I'm hearing about the tile we're supposed to put on, on the overpass. And then he'll, like in aviation, the guy doesn't stop thinking. He never sleeps. But to have a president who cares about what we care about, like, that never happens. And like, in the granular details, that we have that kind of, and I can call him and I'll be like, we're going to do it, and usually he's like 90%, like and like 10% he might have to get upgraded on, but he knows and he cares. And when you have a secretary, members of Congress, an administrator, but a president who cares, this is the money shot. Like, this is the time to do the big, bold things that are going to make the industry work, and it's the partnership we're going to have together. around the country, but I'm partial to Wisconsin, so your Wisconsin feedback is even better. Thank you for having me, Derek.
You are absolutely welcome, Mr. Secretary. God bless you, too.
God bless you.
And the family. Okay. Can we go say hi?